Hi everyone, I'm Jacob Garrison, and this is Foundations of Education, Chapter 10, Culture, Socialization, and Education. There's a lot of information in this chapter, so I'm going to try to cover it as concisely as possible and still get you all the good knowledge presented. So we're going to talk about 5 main factors that affect modern education. Those are family life, peer influence, school culture, television and digital media, and adolescent problems. Starting off with family life, it's notable that family members are the main role model for youth. Those are the people who teach you what's important in life. They help you learn how to walk and talk, how to dress, how to behave. They're your first role models, and they're the biggest contributor to how you're going to end up when you're older. Notably, more than 15% of American children live in poverty. That number is even higher among Black students, Latino students, and minorities. Children that are in poverty have access to fewer resources. They generally have less of an educational background. A lot of times their parents are not as educated. School is not emphasized in those households. That makes it really difficult to learn in school. There's also an increasing number of single mothers and working mothers. Divorce rates have been going up. There's been a skyrocket in single mother households and working mother households that oftentimes results in harder financial times. Also, those children are getting less attention from parents. They're spending less time with their parents, and they're more self-raised children frequently, which oftentimes hinders academic performance. There's also an increased academic pressure to perform. As manufacturing jobs disappear, your schooling often is what determines the quality of your life. Also, children that live in households that have neglect, child abuse, or are homeless tend to perform worse in schools. The influence of peers is really strong in students. Generally, the older you get, the more your peer influence matters. It tends to max out during adolescence, after puberty, starts to diminish slightly towards the end of high school, but is really prevalent between puberty and when you graduate high school. Peers are the first time where you have an experience to interact with others that are your equals. They teach you how to be accepted by others. You learn how to climb up the social ranks. Most students gain esteem to their popularity, athleticism, attractiveness, and personality. Also, your material goods, your socioeconomic status, those are the sort of things that are perceived as what makes students cool. It is very rare that students think that academics make them cool, and that is a negative contributor to academic performance. It has a lot to do with why some students don't care about school, but they care more about how cool they look in front of their friends, because peers play a big role at this point in your life. It is notable that students tend to perform better when they participate in extracurriculars. They also are able to increase their social circle during that time. So students that do extracurriculars are at a huge advantage. It's why a lot of schools promote that. Also, bullying negatively affects students. Students who are being bullied have a hard time performing, and the students who are bullying oftentimes exert criminal behavior later in their life. So bullying has been a big topic of discussion in schools recently. School culture has a lot to do with how students perform as well. Students have 3 main roles: the pupil, the receptive learner, and the active learner. In the pupil role, you're learning information from your teacher, following directions, just learning as you go. The receptive learner role, you are essentially sitting at your desk, taking in information from your teacher and memorizing it. That is the main role that's emphasized in schools. Most classroom settings have a receptive learner role where you're discouraged from talking. You're supposed to just sit there and learn the information that's presented to you. The active learner role is the student who does extra research outside of class, formulates their own opinions, has a discussion with the teacher, oftentimes will disagree with what's being said, and that's where a lot of your more philosophical discussions occur in school. That role is usually not as common in public schools. Schools are often criticized for having a hidden curriculum. That means that for example, in low-income areas, the classes are taught in a way that encourages students to be obedient and docile and take directions and do as they're told and not think for themselves. Oftentimes, that is to set them up for a career where they will be doing as they're told and not thinking for themselves. That is pretty common in low-income schools, places where they don't expect the students to go on to higher education, so they're teaching them how to work jobs where you are not an independent thinker. Goes right along with order and obedience being rewarded in schools. Gender roles also cause problems for both boys and girls. boys tend to be aggressive. Schools do not allow aggressive behavior generally. So boys frequently get in trouble and are scalded for being boys. And girls are generally discouraged from doing math and science fields. It's a negative effect. We've seen more girls pursuing those careers recently, but there's still far fewer girls that pursue careers that pay well and are considered STEM careers than there are boys that do that. Television, digital media play a huge role. That's television, the internet, video games. Students spend far more time using digital media outside of school hours than reading or doing homework. Television, video games, and the internet use may lead to increased aggression, decreased attention span, and increased sexualization at a young age. It's trends that we've been noticing. But there are positive things about that. For example, the internet use causes children to understand what a reputable source is at a younger age. They have a tendency to question where they're getting their information from. They have a wider array of information they can receive, and it helps encourage that independent thought, which is a disadvantage for the children from poorer communities because they'll generally fall behind their peers in technological fluency. They don't have that same exposure. Adolescent problems, we've seen drinking and drug use increase in the youth. Suicide rates have also gone up. But one good thing is teenage birth rates have gone down. However, most of those births that occur are out of wedlock, which generally results in students performing poorly. Also, crime rates have increased among youth, which goes right along with the single mother point from earlier. This kind of have occurred at the same time. So my questions for you is, how might the family life of students affect classroom dynamics? Why do schools primarily reward the receptive learner role in their students versus pupil or active learner? And does the digital media use by students ultimately benefit or hurt teachers in the classroom? Thank you for listening, and have a nice day.